here, see where it says enable scroll peak identifier? So if I select that, and if I start at the first element, which is hydrogen, and I start working my way all the way to the right, see as I keep moving to the right, it keeps lighting up elements, right? They go to boron, carbon, and if I open up my spectro peak, you know what? I do have some carbon, so I can go add, and I can just keep going to the right, oxygen, add, keep going to the right, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Ooh, look at that, copper. Add. So that's the second way of labeling this spectrum, is by using my scroll peak identifier, right? So if I uncheck that off, and now if I come back in here and if I clear this list, nothing is labeled again, right? So that's the second way. The third way of labeling is, if I spread this peak, so I'm maneuvering the peaks just by left-clicking my mouse, dragging to the left, dragging to the right, right? You see the way? Everything is maneuverable using my mouse. So another way of labeling is, if I open up this peak, I see a copper button underneath it. If I click on copper, it'll label that. Right? So if an element has a K alpha line, it will have a button associated with it. Copper L, right? There's no button because that's an L line. So to help new operators, we put the K alpha line buttons. They're visible to everybody. All right? So that's the third way of labeling. The fourth way of labeling is, let's go back in here again, let's unchoose that. So if I come in here and put my cursor in the middle of the peak, it says cursor sitting at 8.055 keV. I've got 590 counts, so it's giving me possible ID. So if I double click the first ID, well, that doesn't line up with anything. Let's double click copper. Oh, guess what? That just lined up. So that'll be the fourth way of labeling, is just double clicking where the cursor is. And now the fifth way of labeling is, if I don't know what's there, up over here on my EDS string up here, see where it says auto ID, the question mark? You tell me what's there, and it goes ahead and labels it. That's the easiest way of labeling, but I had to go over all the ways of labeling. Okay? Let me just
That'll do everything, it seems.
It'll do everything, but also sometimes it gives you erroneous results as well. Because auto ID is not the most accurate thing in the world, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Okay? But it will give you all the labels, then you could go back and deselect your elements.
Yep. Okay.
All right? So realistically, all we did was we just acquired a new spectra, and then I went to the flow chart of spectra, because we have 4 features in the software. We've got spectra, images, maps, and line scan. Same thing up here. If I go to home, my home window, spectra, images, maps, line scan. Spectra up here, images, maps, line scan. This panel, SEM XRF panel, you don't have an X-ray source, so don't worry about that. It's just part of the string, though, so it reads it. Okay? So for right now, if I selected interactive help again, and if I go acquire spectra, it would open up a brand new window. It did on the same window. Damn it. Sorry about that. I messed that up. It should have opened up. If I had a new spectra, it would open up a new spectra window. So you have 2 spectra windows now. Hang on, let me shrink them. So I've got 1 and 1 makes 2. So let's say inside this window, that's I'm waiting for the microscope to pump back down again. Then we'll turn it back on. So it just collected some noise here. But regardless, so I acquired the spectra. The next feature down in my flow chart would be ID the spectra, so it puts up the periodic chart. And then the next ID here would have been, the next thing on the flow chart would be analyzed, and that would tell me exactly what's there in the numbers. I'm waiting for the beam to come back up in order for us to do that. So give this a minute.
What is the green line?
The green line is my cursor.
Okay.
I put the cursor in this peak just to open up that peak, but that's just a noise peak. There's no information there. Let me see if I have anything saved here. Oh yeah, I got a bunch of stuff saved. Let's just open up that. No, I don't want to replace it. I want to open it. Oh, hang on a
I
second.
think you clicked save and stuff.
Oh, I did? Sorry.
Alright.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you're right. All right, so we opened up an older spectra here. And then let's open up a different one. Let's go this one. And there's another spectra too. So let me go here and let me go right click, overlay. Let's restore this spectra. Restore the spectrum. Great. And, hide the analysis. Great. All right. So this is the spectra. Let's say this was. All right. We have a real beam. So let me do a real beam. That's better. It's better than working with fake stuff. Okay. Back to real beam again. Let's kill this. 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 Let's pay attention, Mark. Do me a favor. Just pay attention to this gun value here.
Yep.
let me know what that. Let me know if that starts moving around on us a little bit. That's what I really want to look at. So if we go back here again, this is the way the software window opens from scratch, right? So if I go, what do you want to do? Work with Spectra, okay. I would like to acquire Spectra. So when I click that, it starts acquiring Spectra automatically, right? So that's great. So if I want to go analyze or ID the elements, that's what we just did a second ago. Let's remove aluminum from that mixture. So now we just have copper, oxygen, and carbon, right? So now if I want to analyze this, I just hit the calculator, hit analyze, and it goes through and it tells me the numbers. 99% carbon, 5.5 oxygen, no carbon. It dumped it. So that means it didn't see enough. So that's the analysis for that spectra. Right? So the minimum detection limit, right, on this is 0. It didn't detect anything. Minimum detection limit was 0.5. It detected a little bit over 0.5. And it depends this analysis how you want it to look. So that's a display property. I'm going to skip around for just 1 second here. Let me go to properties.
Technically, you could do like, you could over label them and then it'll tell you like, that thing I don't think is real. And then it will.
Yeah, that's what it does as well. Also under display, right now we have, I don't know how you want this to look. Right now we have element, line, intensity, concentration, error. Do you want the error displayed? I mean, I don't know what you guys want displayed. We could look at atomic percent too. For instance, like the atomic percent is 297, right? So we could look at weight percent, atomic percent. We could look at a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, the pie chart is kind of nice too.
Yeah.
You know, if we had more, more elements, obviously we would look at more elements, but this is what we're looking at right now. But anyway, so hard to tell you how you want the display to look, but as that would have been the first window properties, and right now these are our properties that we're looking at. That was the display property, and that's what I changed display and print settings. So like you can change the background from gray to like, I actually come with it was blue. At any rate, that's just me just skipping around. Background back to gray, we'll leave it the way it was.
It's too shiny.
Yeah, it is. Oop, that's a little bit too. What was the gray? Was it this one? I think it was that one. That's the way it was. That looks kind of nice. Okay, so regardless, so if we follow the flow chart, all we did was acquire the spectra, we ID'd it, and then we analyzed it. And now we could also add text to it. So we could open up a text window and put the text window there and go blah, blah, blah. And we can move blah, blah, blah where we want it to be. We can right click on blah, blah, blah. And we can go to its properties. We can change the color of it, the font size, anything you want. Fully versatile. Right? To say that sample 1 or 10 or whatever. The next thing in this flowchart is spectra synthesis. Well, this isn't also in the text window. You could also like point to stuff too, like get an arrow. You can point to it. If you right click on the arrow, you can look at its properties. You can change the angle of the arrow, the size of it, the width of it, all sorts of stuff there too. But just know anyway that stuff is there. Let me just delete all the overlays for right now. So the next thing is spectra synthesis on the flowchart, and this window realistically should be create a spectra. And so if we go to spectra synthesis, sorry about that, I did the wrong thing. Spectra synthesis right there, we could say, let's say if this spectra was 10% carbon, 10% oxygen, and 80% copper, well, simulate it. Tell me what that looks like. So it just simulated that spectra over here, and that's what it would have looked like. And so for instance, if I acquired another spectra, let me just kind of show you this really quick. Let's go stop. Let me shrink these two windows down just so we see two windows. So right now I've got two windows here, right? I've got a simulated spectra window and I've got the real window. So if I wanted to compare these two windows, I could just hold my control button down, control, left click my mouse, grab that spectra, see the little plus sign happened in there, drag it up over here, let it go, and I just overlaid it on top of this window. So let me grab this window. So let me open this window up. So now I've got an overlay which is in green. It's very low because that percentages were very, very small. But I can overlay the other way. Let's go the other way. That makes a little better sense. Let me go control, left click that guy and drag him into there, let him go. Okay. So on this window, you could see if it had 80%, like the percentages were greater than what we acquired, right? Because there was more spectral information in the make-believe spectrum. But it's just for comparing, overlaying on top, and so on. So back to where we're from scratch, I want to acquire a spectra. We have good enough counts, 1,500 counts, and I recommend you acquire for at least 20 seconds. Right? So we're going to let this go for about 20 seconds or so. Again, remember the labels from previous, but if I call up the periodic chart, right, and I clear this list, I cleared it all, right, and if I go back and just click on Auto ID up here, it'll go in and relabel everything up on top, right? So collect the spectra, ID it. I'm going to stop it after 26 seconds, right? I stopped it, and then analyze it. And there's your results. So realistically, that's what you want to do as far as EDS goes. You want to acquire the spectra, you want to label the spectra, and then you want to analyze the spectra. And that's what we just did. So these pull downs here are strictly for the spectral window. So if we start here, if I click on acquire, it's just going to acquire the same spectra in the same window.
So the three copper lines are representing the difference.
So copper has 3 lines, right? And it has a K alpha,
Yeah.
a K beta, and an L alpha, right? But it's got a bunch of different K. It's got a K alpha 1, it's got a K alpha 2, it's got a K beta 1, K beta 2. So all the lines are active right now. So that's a display property. If you don't like the way it looks, Alex, we go to its properties, right? We go to display, again, it's display property, and we would go to setup. And here under setup, see how every line and marker is active for every element?
Yeah.
So for instance, if we go no labels, no markers, and I just want the K alpha 1 labels, and the marker for K alpha 1, and L alpha 1 markers, and M alpha 1, well, that way the spectra would look a lot less cluttered. Right? I'm not sure how you guys want it. Everything was live before.
No, I want everything right.
You guys want everything live.
Yes.
Again, it's a display property,
Yeah.
right? So we got to go back to display tab, setup, and you want all labels, all markers. You'll get a lot of lines in that, right? But that's why we leave new operators anyway until they start catering to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just to let you know, we can cater this to make it look however you want it to look, right? And so I see the vacuum is really not moving at all, so we haven't lost vacuum. So I think before, because the SDM really hasn't been on for that long, sometimes like I found this as well, like in my systems at my office too. As soon as vacuum